reasonably high profile, if we can call Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey high profile. We sort of can. He's refused to say 10 times whether a woman cannot have a penis. During an interview with Piers Morgan, he said the vast majority of people identify with the same gender they had at birth, but there are a few who don't. Here's what he said.
For the record, do you believe women can have a penis?
For over 20 years, we've had a Gender Recognition Act which has said that people who want to change their gender can do so.
But do you believe that women can have a penis?
I've explained that I think the vast majority of people have the same gender.
Not people,
as...
women. Can women have a penis?
So what I'm saying is...
Well, can they?
0344 499 1000 with your comments on that. And we are going to speak now with the Director of Advocacy and Sex Matters and author of Transgender Identity and the New Battle for Women's Rights. Helen Joyce is back with us. I mean, I don't imagine for one second, Helen, you were surprised to hear any of that. Davey's been there before. We know these people lurk among us, but it is sometimes rather... Well, if it wasn't so sinister and troubling, it would just be a bit fun to watch somebody come out with these kind of statements.
Absolutely. I mean, he doesn't believe what he's saying. He knows, like everybody else, that man and woman are biological categories, and we don't have to go into detail on the anatomy. You find out at around 2 or 3 what the differences between the two sexes are. You know it, and we can all tell what sex somebody is by looking at them fully clothed, by their voice, by their face, by the way that they stand, by the shape of their body generally. He knows that as well as everybody else does. The really sinister thing is that he feels he can't say it. Yeah. It's become taboo to just say, yes, I know that there are two sexes. Humans are mammals. We're the same as, you know, cats and dogs and lions and bears and all the rest of them. Two sexes, can't change. Because he thinks he'll get attacked if he says it. And he's probably right, too. He will get attacked.
What do you make of... I mean, his kind of caveat to all of this is that gender recognition certificates, whatever it is, been around for 20 years. Cross-party support, nobody really blinked. There was never a problem. Suddenly it's all kind of exploded. You know, once in a while somebody did live their lives as a female or as a male. Even that wasn't particularly remarkable. We all got on with things and nobody criticised anyone, and the subject of toilets never even entered the public conversation. What's your take on that?
I think it always was a problem, really, but the numbers were tiny, so people didn't realise. I think it's always been a problem for men to come into women's spaces, even if they have pieces of paper saying that they're women, even if they think of themselves as living as women, whatever the hell that's meant to mean, even if they've had an operation. You can't make a man into a woman by having an operation. It's ridiculous. We all know that. And because the numbers were very small and no one was talking about it, it didn't come to public attention. And yes, this piece of paper does exist, but what the Supreme Court said earlier this year is that piece of paper has very limited effect. It doesn't have effect when other people's rights are in play, in places like, you know, single-sex spaces. For those spaces, the gender recognition certificate doesn't count, and Ed Davey has said he understands that. He said his party accepts that judgment. So he's contradicting himself as well as making, frankly, a bit of a fool of himself here.
It's kind of odd, isn't it? You sort of wonder... Is it just about the fact that, and I know it doesn't completely divide down political lines, but there is something in his kind of, that part of his left-wing brain, he can't go there. You know, in the same way that some of these people won't kind of, they find it really hard to denounce an act of terrorism because they believe that by association they are therefore... having a go at a brown person, for example. And similarly with this, if they dare to go down to that route, then they're going to be seen as not a nice person. I wonder whether that is, you know, at basic psychological level, what's going on here? Because in the absence of an explanation, he's just talking tosh, right?
I think there's two things going on. One is what you say, that it's been turned into a taboo. It's literally a taboo to just say, no, trans women are men. People find it extremely difficult to make that statement. They think it's hateful because they've been told it's hateful, whereas it's just a very simple statement of fact. But the second one is that he knows that this is politically toxic because it's been made very salient. Voters increasingly are aware of it. Voters very much think that biology matters and that single-sex spaces matter. And he's hoping if he can avoid talking about it, it will go away. Yeah. The problem is he is going to keep getting asked this stupid, horrible, ugly question until he gives a straight answer to it. And that answer is, no, women cannot have penises. And I did not really expect to have to say that on air.
Yeah. Where Where are we in terms of, I don't know, where does the UK sit in the league table of penis debates? Let's put it that way. I mean, does this... That was straight off the top of my head. Does this discussion happen?
We are top.
We must be near the top. I'd imagine America are probably second in there as well, maybe. Because I am interested culturally whether this kind of madness extends elsewhere, whether it is specific to certain demographics, certain classes. Well, have we got information on that? Because I'm pretty sure there's some places I could go to around the world and I wouldn't see anyone discussing this.
Yeah, so it's very much something that's in the Anglosphere, so the English-speaking countries. It came out of American West and East Coast campuses and spread from there. And so we're culturally close to those, linguistically, culturally, business and so on. It spreads by universities, it spreads by multinationals, by HR, by EDI, all that stuff. And it's been spreading a long time here. But we're the first in fighting back against it. That's why it's so politically salient. Other places still haven't got it onto the agenda. It's still a thing that ordinary people completely disagree with, but mostly it's not talked about on the media.
I mean, and the whole gender thing, there's more than one debate. There's some people who very quietly say, I would like to recognise myself as a woman. I'm not saying everybody else needs to, and I will live my life wearing a dress rather than anything else. That's fine if somebody wants to do that. Then there's another group of people who are sort of political agitators. We know the kind of thing. They're usually fairly fat, ugly white men. Is there any kind of reason for that? I mean, I don't see many Muslim men making these arguments. I don't see many black men making these arguments. I just see some, rather sort of odd bearded white blokes who seem to think they should be taken seriously as a woman, as serious as you and our producer, Alicia. Producer, loose word, but
I mean, there's obviously a bunch of different reasons that people identify as the opposite sex. Teenage girls do it because they don't want to think about, being women. They find the changing body embarrassing.
Yeah.
Why middle-aged men do it, I have to say I'm a bit suspicious on occasion, I mean, the wilder reaches of male imagination are something that we try to keep under control, frankly, and certainly keep out of women's spaces. And, why is it mostly white people? I mean, it's an identity politics thing, isn't it? To identify into an oppressed group because you haven't got anything else to do.
You've just answered it, Helen. Yes, you've just answered it. I think there's oppression points in them there hills, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I can't deny it. I personally also think male sexuality is a big driver.
Male sexuality?
Yeah. Males have cross-dressed. That's what we used to call them, erotic cross-dressers or transvestites.
Yeah, I see. Yes. The kind of fetish element of this, and I think, and again. But if you raise that issue now, you're seen as not taking it seriously, and you're just, somehow maligning or condemning the poor man who just wants to wear a basque, a thong and a pair of stockings to work on the bus. Listen, we could talk about this for a lot longer as ever. Helen, lovely to have you on. It's all common sense stuff, really, isn't it? Helen Joyce, Director of Advocacy, Sex Matters. I think there is that group, that kind of student rebel group. It's the same when the word non-binary started getting you. Non-binary doesn't mean anything, very. We've got no meaning whatsoever. You won't find it in serious work on psychology, psychiatry, biology, etc. You won't find it because it's just something somebody invented. But it became a great way for sort of leftist students who couldn't find a way of standing out. They couldn't exactly say, oh, we're a minority. They had no minority status. They were just middle-class, fairly privileged white kids. They couldn't call themselves gay because they weren't gay. They couldn't call themselves black because they weren't black. They couldn't call themselves man if they were a woman. But non-binary seemed to work. It put them in a play, So you had non-binary kids talking to sort of black students going, yeah, I sympathise with your journey. No, you don't, you half-wit. I mean, you want the definition of offensive, it is that. Some bozo goes, I'm non-binary, up to, somebody who's non-white go, I sympathise with discrimination. You deserve to be kicked in the balls for that, mate.